And we also have Kevin Gamble. Kevin is a consultant to the E-Extension Foundation and leads several Working Out Loud learning circles currently. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves further as they get started. So John, or Kevin, whoever wants to begin, it's yours.
Kevin, I'm going to leave it to you to open, and then you could hand it over, and I'll talk a little bit about some case studies we discussed last night, if that's okay. Kevin.
Kevin's muted.
Ooh, there we go.
There we go.
It's morning for me, so good day to all of you. It's my pleasure to be on with John Stepper today. As Luann mentioned, I've been leading a group of people across Cooperative Extension who've been doing some work in Working Out Loud, and we have a couple of them on today. Todd Shunnison is in a learning circle. Beth Rainey is on a learning circle. You all met me a couple of weeks ago if you were here when I did something on SEO and blogging strategy. So I've been around. Most of you, I think, probably know me. I've worked in Extension for 30 years at a couple of different universities, and now I'm in retirement and working with the Extension pretty much exclusively around Working Out Loud, although I am doing some work around innovation work, and also I'll be working with you all around the ISPI as well as we advance and move forward to the conference here in a few weeks. John's going to be spending some time with us in San Antonio, which is just awesome. I'm glad this has worked out this way. I think what the message that John has is about a more effective, more human, less stressful way of effective way of working. It's just good stuff. And I think that many of the people who've been involved with this in the extension community so far, and I'll talk a little bit more about that after John kind of talks about it a little more. I think we've all had and Mark Locklear is on. Mark is also a Working Out Loud learning circle person, so we have quite a few on here today. So John, lean on these people all you would like. In terms of the experience, but I know we have some things planned for you all in the I3 core around Working Out Loud, and I hope you'll avail yourself of those opportunities, because I think this is something, there's strategies and techniques involved that I think will help us all to be more effective as we work as extensionists. And so I'll turn this over to John. We're going to be fairly non-formal today. We talked about slides and said, nah, let's not do this. Let's make it more conversational. So with that, I'll turn it over to John, and we can get started. And I'll come back at the end and talk a little bit about more what we have planned after the conference for next steps that would involve many of you all.
Great.
So, go ahead, John.
Thank you. Yeah, and the way kind of Kevin and I discovered each other is in a sense emblematic of what of the practice that we're going to talk about and that we're trying to help everybody do, which is I made some work that I was doing visible and discoverable. Kevin found it, applied it, offered up some kind of simple appreciation. And so here's some guy, I don't know what extension is. I think he has something to do with Michigan State University, though I didn't know what it was, but I liked him. And that sense of relatedness, and there's plenty of studies to show this, increases the likelihood that you'll collaborate in some way or help the other person. And so a little bit online, get to know each other better. Yep. I see him again, we pick up the phone, and it leads to this, and it leads to workshops in San Antonio with a group that I did not even know existed, and a group whose mission I think is pretty awesome. And we're going to talk about how this might apply to you today without preempting the talk in San Antonio. But I thought the best way today might be to walk you through what another organization is doing and how it's helping them to spread this practice. and as a way almost to whet your appetite or maybe to spark some ideas about how you might apply it and how you might adapt it. Because it's not just a cookie cutter thing. It's a practice that we customize and personalize all the time. So, Kevin, if you can, and you may have done this already in some other channel, maybe just people could skim it now or they could refer to it later, but the link to yesterday's post about the 5 elements might just be a useful thing to put in the chat, because that is, in a reasonably short little article, summarizes what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, I'm going to talk about an organization, Bosch. How many people on the phone know Bosch? So, this my gallery works. Everyone hear of Bosch?
Oh.
They're the world's largest private company, and have about 360,000 people. And they're over 100 years old. So big, right? Based in Germany, they do a lot of different things. Most of it revolves around auto parts, but I've got, their blender and their dishwasher. And somebody in Stuttgart had, like Kevin, come across one of the Working Out Loud blogs and said, this seems like an interesting idea. So she follows it. We happen to have mutual connections that we don't even know about. I've never met her, didn't know she existed. But she's on some call and decides that they're going to form these peer support groups like Kevin did. And that, when she talked to her manager about that experiment, her boss said, no. And so this woman's like, well, it's a good thing, so I'm going to do it on my own time. And she does. Not to be subversive, but just to try something that she thought would be good for herself and good for the company. And so they do some circles, and the feedback is good. They translate guides into German. They adapt it to their environment. So internally, they have a network that connects them called Bosch Connect, that they think is like, this is the backbone of our company. And then they do some more circles. People like them. It just so happens I'm going to be in Stuttgart, which is like the universe connecting dots for something totally different. But while I'm there, I give a talk. And, it's a few hundred people show up, including some management. And so the few circles turns into a few dozen more. Now they've got about 50. And what they continue to do, and what I do with them, is to adapt them to Bosch. So it's not just a general thing. It's, here's how you could use our systems if you have a work goal. I'm going to explain Working Out Loud in a little bit. And it's become a little bit of a movement inside the company that now we may scale in a more systematic, programmatic way with the help of HR, right, to help more people. So what is it? For those of you who aren't familiar, and again, the blog post helps, simply put, right, it's an approach to your goals that you frame something you want to accomplish in terms of who could help you and how can you deepen relationships with those people based on contributions you can make to them. Really simple. I mean, probably Aristotle practiced this, right? It's not about social media per se or personal branding, God forbid. It's just framing a goal in terms of people and contributions that you can make. And I'm going to do a few minutes about why that works, but also why it feels good. Because if I poll an audience and I say, how many people think, it's a network would help them, a robust personal network would help them with their job, or with their career, hand's going to go up. And if I say, how many people think that building that network feels good, a lot of hands are going to come down. And if I say, how many people have a systematic approach to doing it, there's going to be nobody. This flips it on its head. So it gives you a simple, sustainable system that feels good and helps you to be effective. Okay, now why? So I'm going to walk through these 5 elements real quick. I didn't plan to do this, but I feel it might help. And then we're going to come back to Bosch, and we're going to talk about you. Right. This simple phrase just started with the idea of make your work visible, right? But it's the rare person who kind of naturally wants to work that way. I didn't work that way for the first 45 years of my life. What you want to start with instead is a purpose. What is that I'm trying to accomplish? And then what helps you get something done, and something done means learning, or something done means access to some opportunity or resources, is other people. So relationships are the key. The headline of Working Out Loud is relationships. And to build relationships, it's not to manipulate people or influence them or brand them. The way to build authentic relationships is through generosity. And that's not naive. It's not some kind of Pollyanna thing. There's a good book that summarizes it called Give and Take, which says that, in effect, as social animals, we're wired for reciprocity, right? So if I do something for you, you're more likely to do something for me. You're compelled to do something for me, right? And you can use that for evil, meaning I give you $1 in an envelope in some mass mailing so that you'll fill out a survey or vote for my guy or do whatever it is, right? That's one way to view reciprocity and take advantage of that wiring. But what we do instead is small gifts freely given. That's a phrase from the founder of LinkedIn, which says that I can afford to give to Luann and Mark and Kevin and Beth, and I don't have to keep score, because over the course of my entire network, social reciprocity, call it reciprocal altruism, has a name. Over the course of my network, there'll be a benefit to me. But what's cool about that is that each of those small gifts freely given makes me feel good because they're kind of genuine and authentic. And I benefit, but I benefit over the course of my network. I don't have to worry about quid pro quo. Visible work just helps you in terms of scale and reach. You can make your work visible in an email. You can make a contribution over coffee. But you make your work visible in such a way that it's helpful to other people. It is framed as a contribution. So it's not, I'm awesome, I wrote a book. It's, hey, you're trying to reach people in your communities to leverage resources of the university. This might help you. It's not tricking anybody. It's just, I really do think it's helpful. I'm more likely to send that message and you're more likely to receive it. I'm going to go back to Bosch. So even if you've read a book or you get this naturally, like it all makes sense to you, you've read Dale Carnegie, you use the internet, right? That's really what this is, relationships plus the internet. You don't have a habit of doing it. Certainly not inside big companies. And so we looked at this as, how do we help people to develop a set of positive habits, a set of positive behaviors? And after a bunch of research, and in the last 20 years, we've really learned a lot about both how the brain works and how people work. It's not all that hard conceptually. Small steps, practiced over time with feedback and peer support. You can change anything. Play the piano, work out loud, whatever it is, you can develop positive behavior changes, positive habits, or stop negative habits. Small steps practiced over time with feedback and peer support. And we created working out loud circles. They're small groups of 4 or 5 people. They pick an individual goal. It is a trusted circle, meaning that it's confidential, and people can afford to be vulnerable. And over the 12 weeks, it's an hour a week for 12 weeks. They take these small steps practiced over time. Okay, back to Bosch and then back to you. And I'm going to answer that question from Maine. In the chat. So Bosch is a big company. This sounds nice, but they're like, well, how does it apply to work? Right. And what they did was, first they have a strategy called Project Agile Company of, and I'm going to use their words, they wanted to create a more, quote, connected company in the digital age, right? That's what because they have so many people, so much knowledge, so many resources, that if they could connect it in an easy way, they could get a lot more out of it. And after the first couple of waves of circles, they started to survey people as they finished the process. And so they said, hey, does, yes or no, does the method help us, the circles that they went through, does it help us develop into this highly connected company in the digital age? And 98% of the people said yes. Do we reach experts and expertise because of it? 95% said yes. And then the question I liked the most is, I feel better about work. And 88% said yes. So in your context, let's take it back to you. And then I was opening up for questions, and Kevin is still teaching me, in effect, the mission of the different universities and how we can help them. But from what I understand, at the heart of what you do is both reliant and dependent on building networks across extension. Like, hey, you're doing that in Idaho, and we could do, that's a good idea. But also inside your state, right? So a lot of what you do is connecting the dots so that people can take advantage of things that are already out there, either within the state or even across states. And so this lends itself very well to what you're trying to build. And what we do with the circles, though, is change is so hard that you really need to appeal to people's intrinsic motivation. So as much as you may care about the mission and the job, it may just be hard to develop that habit. And so what the circles do is you can pick any goal the way we've structured it at Bosch and other companies. Some people pick work goals. Some people just pick, I want to get better at this particular skill, or even my hobby. Because the most important thing is that you develop this habit. You experience it. You are intrinsically motivated to take these steps over time, so that by the end of the 1 hour a week for 12 weeks, you have a habit and a mindset you can apply to any goal. And that's the capability. And these are the kind of numbers. I feel better about work. I can find and build relationships with people who can help me get things done or create new possibilities. I can use the tools better. So you create a digitally literate workforce. Right? It's better for the people as individuals. They feel better. I hear that all the time. I feel empowered because it taps into our intrinsic motivators for a little control, learning, purpose. But it's also better for the firm or organization. And that's what we're going to talk about in San Antonio. And I'm going to go through a bit more of an extended version of this. We're also going to do a workshop in the afternoon, and I hope many of you can make it, where we'll go through in a kind of a condensed version of the first 2 weeks of a circle, so you get a taste of it, like how this works. And then maybe you could bring it back to your universities, or maybe with Kevin's help, we can start adapting the practice specifically for the extension. So with that, I think, Kevin, I'm going to turn back to you, and then I haven't been looking at the Zoom chat except peripherally, but if we dive into questions, that'd be great.
Well, there's one question from Mark that maybe we should address before I start
Mark
off.
Lockley?
Yeah, around he has a question about the how do we frame working out loud in a more purposeful manner? So that relates to the fifth element there about the purposeful discovery, I believe. So I'll let you deal with that a little. Although I think in this group, maybe I'll give a little context. This group, as they came into this group and became this I3 core, all proposed basically projects and goals. So in some regards, they had set their sights around what it was they're hoping to accomplish. And this may relate to somewhat we might do differently here is with, and we talked about this when we did our session on Monday, John, about team-based learning circles and maybe looking at outside the box just a little, because some of them are teams, some of them are individual efforts. But I'll let you address that just a little, then we'll.
Okay.
Then I'll take the other question.
So. There are some trade-offs involved, and we have some options that we can explore, particularly for extension. Think about how many things you've tried to change for yourself, and then reflect on how many different change programs there have been in the different organizations you've been a part of, and how few of those were successful. So it's hard, and you really do need to tap into these intrinsic motivators. Like, I have to believe this is for me, because even stuff that we know we want to do, like eat right and exercise so I can live, even that is hard for us to do. So here's what we do inside companies, is that at Bosch and Cisco, for example, it's very important to maintain that trust within a circle. If your boss tells you what your goal is, and then you're going through some program to work on his or her goal, that is not intrinsic motivation, right? So they don't do that. They don't say, and here's the goals for your circles, go ahead. Because we've done those change programs for decades. What we do instead, what we're really trying to do, the goal here is to build a capability, to build a skill, a habit, so that people can take with them anywhere. But what they do is, since it is inside an organization, they'll say, aha, so we have these Bosch circles, but here are goals within Bosch that you can choose from. Like they suggest, and many people I'll take it. They don't have a particular goal in mind, they'll happily take a recommendation, but it's still their choice. And then what they've done with the guides is they've customized the guides so that they explicitly refer to Bosch or Cisco language, or Bosch or Cisco tools. And what it does is it nudges people in a very healthy way that says, look, this is about you and building your capability. But within the context of our organizations, we're going to make it easy for you to practice here and develop that capability on work goals in a work environment. And that's why so many people, even in the survey, says, yeah, this helped me do my job, because those nudges were so helpful and kind of led them. They made it easy to choose work goals and to practice at work. So that's one. A second approach, which we're experimenting now in Germany, is to rethink the guides altogether, specifically for team goals. So it's, working out loud for teams. So unlike a circle I just described, where it's 4 or 5 people with individual goals, tapping into intrinsic motivation, and they're just providing support to each other, as well as shared accountability. Working out loud for teams would be, there's one goal, one set of relationships that they're looking to deepen, right? A common set of kinds of contributions they could make. So it's a similar but different thing. And the trade-offs are clear. On the one hand, hey, that's a lot safer. Like, it's not terribly personal. I'm more comfortable, perhaps, particularly in Germany. There'll be some people who are more comfortable talking about work in a work context than focusing on the work goal. Great. That means it'll be easier for them to practice. However, depending on their relationship to the firm or the team or the goal, it might dampen their intrinsic motivation. So just trade-offs. It might be easier to relate to and be less abstract, but it also might not be kind of as emotionally resident. But think of this example. I'm working with some healthcare people in the UK. So imagine you're a nurse in Nottingham. It's not about opening up a Twitter account or updating your LinkedIn profile. When you work out loud, it might make more sense that you have a team goal with the other nurses on your shift of reducing infections. And so the circle guides give you a way to get information, to get to other people, to make visible what you're trying or haven't tried, and with that common team goal of reducing infections. And that gives nurses, or anybody, it could be in a factory, it could be in a farm, to have this capability of finding people and information that can help them, and connecting with it and applying it, small steps practiced over time with feedback and peer support, but towards something that they feel is totally related to their job. And now once they have that mindset and skill, they can apply it anywhere. So that's absolutely, I get the, hey, how does this apply to work? And what someone like Kevin or this group could do is that we can customize the materials to make it easy for people to apply these steps and to practice towards work goals, given the tools you have available to you. That was a long answer. Mark, does that help? I take that as a yes.
I was looking for that mute.
Fantastic.
Okay, excellent. Well, let me talk a little bit about what we're doing and why we do it. And I think John tells a story, and John wrote the book. John's been doing this for a long time. I thought I was doing this for a long time, and I think there's a whole lot of people who think they're doing it, who embrace transparency and other things, and I think they're kind of getting there. But I think the main point is this isn't easy. And when John met with us here a few weeks ago, he actually came in and met with our learning circles. Let me give you a little background. We have 4 learning circles right now with 16 people, and they're from all over the cooperative extension system. So we're kind of dipping our toe into this and getting started. And where we're headed is wanting to scale this. So we're obviously going to look to the people who've been in the 16 and have been through the program to help us in scaling it. And many of those people will be involved in working with the core here as well. But it goes back to we think we know how to do this, but what we find as we become more aware and as we learn is that we still make mistakes and we still need help, and that's where the guided practice and the support piece becomes important. And John, when he met with us a couple of weeks ago, he told the story about writing his book and then realizing that his link file had not been updated for like 7 months. And one of the exercises in the learning circle is to update our profiles everywhere, so that when we work on our network shaping and connecting with new people, they have an idea who you are. And when John just found me, he says, wow, it sounds like you've got a really cool job at Michigan State. And I said, well, yeah, except for I retired from there. I'm not working there anymore. So my profile was out of date as well. And Todd, who's on with us here, says, you know, your profile and learn is really out of date. And I was like, yeah. So the point is that these things, the forming the habits and doing this, one is it helps to have the support of our peers in doing this to help us do this better, to bounce things off of. But the other part of it is that it does take practice. It's about forming new habits and new ways of working.
Yep, I was going to build on that, because then thanks again for that. is one thing I actually didn't expect to happen that happens is that people keep forming circles after they're finished. Because I kind of thought, well, they'd go through these guides, they'd get it, and it's almost like a course, right? You go through it, there are exercises. And it took me, I'm on my 7th circle, and you would think I got it by now. And the word I use to describe it now is it's more like a practice, meaning you keep applying it. Just like people who may meditate for years, they still meditate and they still kind of evolve their practice. It's a very personal thing that changes over time. And the reason why I keep forming new circles is what I find is, to your point about the shared accountability, the energy and new perspectives of different people. So they're usually different people in each of my circles. I may have the same goals. Sometimes it changes over time. It helps me be more systematic. It helps me be more effective, while I continue to kind of evolve and improve in a trusted environment. It's like, well, why wouldn't you do that? So that, that feeling we all have of like, oh, I really should have kept in touch with Joe. Or maybe somebody sent you an email, you haven't heard from them since high school, but they just got laid off, and, hey, how you doing? Can we meet for coffee? And it's just, people just kind of fall off your radar. And what this simple process and habit does, gives you like a simple, sustainable way of practice to not do that. To make small gifts freely given to people in your network who can help you, and it feels good.
John is right. It does feel good. It's a different way of working, and it's a really satisfying way of working. And so hopefully we'll get many of you involved. And when I did my, John has a story about this as well, but when I did my initial webinar on working out loud, and I did it via learn.extension.org, and we were basically looking for people to join. We had 85% of the people who came to that webinar signed up to do it. They thought this sounds like a good thing. And as we've done the learning circles, we basically, of 16 people, we lost one, and mainly because he got a new job and he was just massively stressed, and so maybe the time wasn't right for him to be digging into this. Although I really think that he in the new job and his stress, he might have been better off staying with us. I think that might have actually helped him to get off onto a good start with his new job. Looking at some of these practices and work, he had the opportunity to be the new person and do something different. But I understand time constraints and people walking on your schedules. So we've worked around that the best we can. But we've got everybody with us, and we're doing okay in our 16 circles. So you know what these circles are about. It's a 12-week commitment, and the way we've done it is an hour a week. So you basically schedule an hour a week, and you come in and you basically have a nice supporting group, less than 5 people. So if we had everybody in the core join a circle coming out of San Antonio, we could have what would we have, 40 some circles. It could be a lot of activity in the system, but the way we describe it is exactly the way John described it. Is we're starting a movement in cooperative extension, and being that you all are working on new kind of innovative and new things, this is a good place to experiment with what we think is more effective ways of working. And so from that regard, we're here to help and support you in doing that the best that we can, because we really do think this helps. I'm reminded of the expression we say too often in extension, is that we're the best kept secret, and I don't think that's a positive thing. And I think that best kept secret thing basically leads to a lot of our obscurity and maybe not necessarily being at the table when we need to be at the table, because our processes are slow and bureaucratic, and we're often a day late and a dollar short getting to the table, even though we have so much to offer. So a lot of this work and working out loud is about shaping those networks so that our networks are more diverse, so that we're not so obscure. John talked about he and I meeting. John was not a person in my network 2 months ago, and now he's an important person in my network. And I think that a lot of that can just be attributed to the fact that we're practicing working out loud, and we made a connection. It was a meaningful connection, and we shared meaningful goals and things about where we'd like to see the world of work go, making work more meaningful, rehumanizing work, all of those kinds of things, that there's a better way when people bring their whole self to work. And so we've been involved in this for a while. I think it's going good, and I don't know exactly how we're going to scale to 80 circles, but we'll probably be doing a variety of things. We'll be doing some things to outside of the circles to support and help the circle guides, the facilitator. It's really not a facilitator, because the person really participates right along with them. And in our 4 circles, I participate in every single circle, and it's amazing how even doing the same circle 4 times, by the time I get to the 4th one, I'm still discovering and putting new things out there and coming up with new ideas, like, or just finding out really meaningful and interesting things about the people I work with. One was Elizabeth Kiss, who we got talking about facts about herself, and I found out she grew up in Ames, Iowa, and I said, oh, well, both my children were born in Ames, Iowa. So you make these little connections, and they're just like little practices and little things that seem at the moment that might not be important and insignificant, but they allow us to connect at a different level and make our work more meaningful. So we'll be doing a whole bunch of these. We'll probably be getting them formed. I'm guessing that after San Antonio, I might take a week off, but the first group of circles should be wrapping up right around San Antonio. A whole bunch of the people who've been involved in these circles will actually be in San Antonio. Some of them will be working as what's the word, Luann, we use to describe the key informants?
Key informants during the design-a-thon. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So Connie Hancock from Nebraska has volunteered to do that. And there's several people who are part of the core who've actually already been in some learning circles, so they'll be very important to us during that time. So that's what we're about. It's working out loud sounds easy. It's not. Even for those of us who think we get it, it's still not easy. We still have to work at it, and it really helps to have people who we trust and support who will maybe say, hey, Kevin, you maybe could have done that a little better, a little differently. John had a thing about a double opt-in, like when you're introducing 2 people. We all get asked to introduce people. This is just one example. And it talked about the double opt-in. I thought, I haven't been doing that, and it makes so much sense. And so since I read that, it was in one of our learning circles, I've done that double opt-in like 3 times now. It's like just such a simple little thing, but and then others are doing that as well. So there's a lot of little nice little things to learn here about how you do this. And I want to emphasize that it's really not about the tools. I think too many people, we get tied down and focusing on the technology, and it's really not a technology thing, because basically any tool that's been built in the last 5 years at least has social sharing baked into it already. So the choice of tool and the platform and the framework, that's not really that significant of a thing. But obviously it surfaces because people sometimes struggle with using those tools, but the tool itself is really not, that's not what it's about. Anyway, I will shut up now, and let's just see if we have any questions, or maybe some of the people who've been in our circles, like Mark and Beth and Todd, maybe you'd like to say something. Is there someone else on? Was Jill on today? I didn't, because I've got more than one screen of people here, but I'll just throw that out and give you a chance.
I'd be glad to share a few thoughts. Luann, did you want to say something first?
I'll hold off until we wrap up with this
Okay.
part of sharing.
Yeah, I was just going to share my experience in the learning circle. So my name is Mark Locklear. So I'm with Extension staff, and so we're on week 7, 8, I think, of the learning circle. And the biggest thing that I've gotten from it is it basically gives you an excuse to sort of make these connections with people that, like, oftentimes I would think about making a connection, but I'd be like, well, it would kind of be weird, or like, this person's not going to know who I am. But part of the exercises and the sort of assignments, and I don't want to make it sound like you have homework or something like that, because it's very laid back and loose, and there's no pressure to you don't have to do these things, but they're more suggestions of ways to make contact with people. But working through those exercises has given me an excuse to make contact with people, not just with professional people, but I mean, I've used it as an opportunity. One of the exercises we had was to basically thank someone that we work with, or someone in our lives, and I added my wife to that list, so it was a chance for me to get some points in at home. So it's applicable not only to folks you work with, but just friends, family, and things like that too.
Thank you. Beth, did you want to share anything from your experience in the learning circles?
It's been good. Just the realization that working out loud is not just telling people everything you're doing and what you're eating for lunch, and because I think some people honestly think that, and they think that being loud online is the key word, and it's loud is not the key word in that phrase, and so that was a good realization for me. And this the generosity and the others and the making individual contacts. It's made me more thoughtful.
Anyone else that's been involved? I can't really see everybody.
I got to look at another page here, because there were 3 of us on, I think. Another person, let me see. I should remember this. Oh, Todd. And Todd might have a different perspective, because we're all a little different. So, but I think that's a big part of this. So, Todd, I'll let you speak. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just eating lunch. Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it for me was, like Beth mentioned, it's not so much working out loud. A lot of it was introspective and learning about myself in ways that would allow me to share more openly.
Okay. And maybe we should just open it up now and take some questions. Heather asked, oh, John, you answered, I guess, about the colleagues that might be reticent to get involved.
Here's so I've made the mistake in my my career doing this a few years back of trying to get to everybody, and you don't do that. Like, that's not the way you drive change, is trying to appeal to everybody. In fact, just this morning I was on a call with BMW in Munich, and they were spreading circles at BMW. Again, how I thought, they just found me, and they're like, how do we change the culture? What do we do with the manager who says that we're too busy for this kind of thing? It's like, don't start with him. Like, it's a big company. So you have 4 circles now, try 8, try 16. There are 15,000 people. You can hold off on the person who is just not ready for whatever reason in their life to try it. And what happens, and what certainly happens at Bosch and other places, what happens is, over time, you get more experience inside the organization, you have more stories to tell, you have more data to share about why it's working, and social proof is a huge lever that you can apply. So that as they hear, not just from a Kevin Gamble, but from their friends in their area, then they're that much more likely to do it themselves. So this thing happens in waves. Think of it as concentric circles, and and you've just started. So if there are people who are they're just really not open to this kind of thing, they're just not open yet. And work with the first 1%, and then 2%, and then keep going. And you'll spread a positive set of behaviors that even if you never get to 15,000, let's say you do a terrible job and you only have, 5%, right? All right, you have 750 people who are working in this open, generous, connected way. Pretty awesome. Let's start with that.
And it makes a huge difference to that 5%. Because we're talking about it's this whole issue of employee engagement and bringing your whole self to work, and it's all about making our work lives more meaningful and purposeful. And so, I mean, that's all baked in and part of it. And I think that John made the point. What he described is what we in Extension do. We absolutely totally understand the adoption diffusion process, and that you don't start with everyone, because that's just not how memes and things spread through organizations. So I think we're all, but I think that's good, because I think I've had to do some resisting and pushback against people trying to require learning circles. I want everyone to do it and have them sign up. And I've said, no, we're not doing that. This is really important that it's voluntary, that you chose to do this, because that's really true of all learning. I mean, if you aren't a voluntary learner, you're not going to learn. You might pass the test, you might move on to the next grade, but you're not really internalizing and learning as you do when it's an intrinsic kind of motivated thing. So, more questions?
Is San Antonio going to be fun?
Yes.
Well, I haven't really put out to the core what the plan is for the Design-a-thon, so you can have a quick sneak peek here. On Thursday at the conference, we'll be holding the Design-a-thon, which is an all-day event, high energy event. Prior to that, the day before, you'll have a workshop with John about the learning circles, as he mentioned before. So you'll have his keynote, and you'll have that workshop. On Thursday at the Design-a-thon, we're going to be asking you to work on your projects with the intention of adding an innovative component or strategy to your project during that day. We will have, I haven't got the final number yet, but we'll have 12 to 14 conversation stations around the room, staffed by people with different expertise. So we'll have some climate experts, we'll have some food systems experts, some evaluation folks. Some of these people you already have met with or know. Strategic messaging folks, social media marketing folks, and a table of folks from the current learning circles, from Working Out Loud learning circles in Extension. And the idea will be that with supervision by Paul Pangaro, as he works you through the design thinking process, you're going to consult with these experts that are relevant to your ideas for innovation, and bounce ideas off each other about how you can incorporate an innovation in one of those areas to your project design right then, that day, and be able to speak about it by the end of the day. So if Working Out Loud is resonating with you, then you might do some more investigation, look at the blog post John referred you to, and think about this a little further as maybe one idea for your innovation during the Design-a-thon, and then you can work on it more there. That's not the, there are many opportunities for different things you can do, but with this preview and a little bit of research, you'll be more prepared to decide how that might innovate your project for the core. Does that make sense? I don't think John's available to stay on Thursday for the Design-a-thon.
I'm going to Hawaii.
Aw, gee.
I'll
Oh,
have you know, he gave up his trip to Hawaii to be with us. His family's going before us.
Oh
So,
my gosh. All right.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's a big deal. So we
well,
thank you for that,
I
John.
we thank you for Wednesday.
I will be wearing a brightly colored shirt during my presentation.
Nice.
That's great. But we will have Kevin there. We will have Todd and Mark and other people who've been in the learning circles who will be able to have conversations with you further about how you might apply that to your project design.
Luann?
Yeah. Mark.
We got a really good question. I wonder if John could address that. It was a really good question by Kathy Murray in the chat. She says, when people bring their whole selves to work, does this lead to oversharing of personal matters that become disruptive? How do we give people the right boundaries to promote productivity?
And first, question. So I gave a brief answer in the chat in case you didn't get to it. As far as I know, is there a common kind of fabric that connects the different universities, that connects extension? Like, is there, I don't know, a SharePoint or something of that kind that connects you, that you can communicate to each other than email?
In their states, there is, but in terms of a national system that connects all of the disparate extension systems, no, not really.
No. Okay, so thank you. The short answer, Kathy, is here's why that's not a problem. I mean, could it be a hypothetical problem? Yes, but two things. One, the guides walk you through a set of steps, and they're all focused on framing whatever it is you're sharing as a contribution, right? And what that does is it flips your empathy switch. So we're training people. Now think of how many emails you get where you wish the people sending them to you went through this training, right? Instead of broadcasting or doing things to people with your communications, right? We train people to craft their messages in such a way that they can be considered as a contribution to the other person. That is a learned skill. And that's something we do over the guides. And no one ever taught us that. Normally we're busy, so we send emails, and they often feel the messages we get often feel not as nice as they should be, or don't necessarily trigger a positive response in you. And so while we don't focus too much on techniques, there's absolutely, you will practice over the 12 weeks. How can you frame what you're doing, starting with the simplest things like Mark talked about, appreciation and recognition, universal gifts that are easy to offer. But later on, we'll talk about, you've got something you think is useful for somebody. How do you craft an email so that they'll actually even open it? And then what do you do when they don't open it? And they don't even respond? What do you do? And there are some techniques, but really what that is it's a practice. And we get you started. Your peer group helps you through that. And as you practice and get feedback over time, you see what works and what doesn't work and what's also comfortable for you. So it's not a set of tricks per se, but it is, without too fine a point, it is empathy training so that your messages are more likely to be received and found helpful. And it's not that hard.
Okay, we're coming up on the top of the hour. So if you've been holding on to a question, waiting for the right moment, this is your moment.
This is your big shot. Although, just to be clear,
are you going to rap for us? You can do that.
Yes, I have Alexander Hamilton in my head because my kids keep listening to it. But on a related note, Kevin is a linchpin inside extension for me, so we talk all the time. Kevin's connected with practitioners around the world, so he's just aware of what other people are doing. And so, as you have questions or just whatever it is, I'll gladly help Kevin with anything he needs. So just tell him.
And I want to thank John for connecting me to these practitioners all over the world. It's just been fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, John and Kevin, for being with the core today. We have a couple more of these coming up. Next week will be social media marketing with Sandy Adam, who's not an extension person, but she's an award-winning social media strategist from ANSYS. It's a global chemical company. So she'll be talking about, sharing what she knows about social media marketing, and then she'll also be a key informant at our Design-a-thon in San Antonio. And then I'm a little mushy about the final week before the conference. I had somebody that didn't pan out and had to be a Wednesday thing, which you'll see in an email from me shortly. So we have that Thursday open. I was also told I needed to have a social event for the core, kind of a meet and greet where we would all do one of those getting to know you games, but in the Zoom version. I don't really know. And it happens to be on St. Patrick's Day. So I think we'll do the wearing of the green in Zoom and bring our token green beverage, whatever that is for you, green tea, green beer, green milkshake, whatever that is, and just have kind of a social getting to know you, which will be a good time for that because it's prior to the conference. And so people can have it be their cocktail party to get to know each other in the core a little bit better. So you'll see each other on Tuesday evening at the reception and say, you're a core member, I've seen you in green. So I hope you'll join us for that. Thank you.
Really looking forward to working with you all and having John with us. It's going to be special. So thank you all for coming today. It's really nice to see you.
See you in San Antonio.
Yoo-woo!
What do they say there? Yeehaw?
Go, oh gosh.
Longhorns?
Go Longhorns maybe? Yeah, something.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Luann. Thanks, Kevin. Bye.
Thanks, Len. Thanks, John.